This is CBC Vancouver News.
A push to expand involuntary care in BC.
This is certainly not the end of what we need to do, but it is an excellent beginning.
Why some city officials are welcoming the move, while advocates say it's not the answer.
Detaining someone against their will is not a response to public suffering.
And a fiery multi-vehicle collision shuts down Highway 4 near Cameron Lake for hours. Plus,
where we're seeing the downfall is just with donations from the private sector, and it's been challenging as a result.
A downtown Eastside charity says a lack of funding and rising costs is putting them at risk of closing down for good. Hello, I'm Janella Hamilton. Thanks for joining us. Premier David Eby has announced Surrey and Prince George will be first in line to receive new involuntary care facilities. It's part of a plan by the province to expand treatment for mental health and addictions. And while some city councillors are welcoming the move, as Tanushi Bhatnagar reports, advocates say forcing people into drug treatment is ineffective.
We're going to ensure that we're opening beds everywhere across the province.
At the Union of BC Municipalities Convention Friday, Premier David Eby said the province will create 100 new involuntary care beds in Prince George and Surrey, saying it will help tackle public disorder and promote safety. It is welcome news in both the communities.
It's just the tip of the iceberg. We need far more beds here, and we need far more beds around British Columbia. There is a lot of street disorder as a result of people who should be in care out on the street. It's not fair to the individuals, and it's not fair to the businesses and residents.
Well, quite honestly, almost sobs of relief. This is certainly not the end of what we need to do, but it is an excellent beginning.
Klassen says it's an issue Prince George City Council has been advocating for years. She says Prince George serves as a hub for many services in northern BC, and a lack of involuntary care was leading to an overuse of hospital beds and straining other healthcare services.
All we have is hospital beds for psychiatric patients especially, and they're only supposed to be there for 2 weeks, and that isn't long enough to treat someone who needs more care.
But some advocates say involuntary care is an inappropriate response to address homelessness, addiction, and public disorder.
We understand that municipalities may be frustrated, but the question again is, did we create the conditions where all of us can thrive? And if the answer is no, we should not be blaming the people who are suffering.
And one public policy expert says voluntary participation and safer treatment options may result in more successful outcomes.
I think a very immediate type of intervention that we could have is offering people alternatives to the toxic drug supply. So things like heroin-assisted therapy and other ways that we can substitute toxic drugs so that people can become more stable.
So far, the province has not announced a budget or a timeline for this province-wide project, but the Premier says there is a huge urgency for such facilities. Tanushi Bhatnagar, CBC News, Vancouver.
One person is in hospital in critical condition following a fiery crash on Highway 4 this afternoon. The collision, which happened near Coombs, shut down the highway in both directions for about 5 hours. BC EHS says they received a call around 1:30 about a multi-vehicle incident on the highway between Whiskey Creek and Cameron Lake. 4 units responded, including an advanced life support and an air ambulance. The highway reopened around 7 o'clock tonight. Now to a targeted gang shooting in Chilliwack that's left bullet holes in multiple homes and 1 person injured. Mounties say around 9:45 last night, officers responded to reports of shots fired outside a home on Crimson Ridge. When they arrived, they found 1 person suffering from non-life-threatening injuries and shell casings and blood outside the house. RCMP say multiple neighboring houses were also struck by bullets. No one inside those homes were injured. Police say it was a targeted shooting related to BC's gang conflict. A burned-out Mazda CX-5 was found in an area nearby. Investigators are trying to figure out if it's connected to the shooting. Residents who were forced from their homes due to the Monroe Lake wildfire near Peachland have been allowed to return home, but are being warned to be ready to leave again at a moment's notice. Central Okanagan Emergency Operations says the initial evacuation order for about 300 properties has been reduced, but remains in effect for an industrial area in Peachland. More than 1,000 properties are on evacuation alert. Officials say no structures have been lost so far as a result of the fire, which is now mapped at 3.1 square kilometers in size and is considered out of control. The Operations Center says some wind is in the forecast for tonight. The Port of Vancouver is reporting record cargo volumes for the first half of this year. 85 million metric tons of cargo moved through the port from January to June, a 13% increase over the same period last year. The port says the record volume is mainly linked to crude oil exports to China, fueled by the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion.
If we look at just the growth that's happening outside of North America, our volumes are up 20% over the same period last year. So for the first half of 2025, international volumes are up close to 20% from the same period last year.
She says the port has a number of projects underway to further increase cargo capacity, including the Roberts Bank expansion in Delta. It comes at a critical time for the Canadian economy amid the U.S. trade war. A charity that has been providing jobs to people facing barriers in Vancouver's downtown east side is at risk of shutting down after more than 20 years. The Potluck Cafe Society says funding has dried up and now they're working to make up the shortfall. As Michelle Morton reports, it's one of many nonprofits struggling across the province.
Jillian Hodge says she started working at the Potluck Cafe Society after hearing about it through a friend.
I can't even believe how far I've come from only 2 years.
Since working for the charity, she says mentors have taught her new skills and her colleagues have become family.
They just kind of showed me what to do, and I never really thought that I would be able to take catering orders or, organize weddings or coordinate office events.
The charity says they employ nearly 50 people, working every position needed to run a catering business, from cooks to drivers.
We're coming to work. These are real jobs with dignity and responsibility, and we're allowing these people to make systemic changes in their lives, again, either through working for us or leveraging that experience as a stepping stone to go work elsewhere to help excel their career.
But Hodge and the others are at risk of losing their jobs because the society says they've been seeing donations dry up over the past year.
Where we're seeing the downfall is just with donations from the private sector, and it's been challenging as a result.
The Potluck Cafe Society is not the only charity struggling. Earlier this month, more than 200 leaders in the nonprofit sector signed an open letter calling for more supports.
Experiencing a lot more pressure and more demand for us to show up to support community. And at the same time, we're either experiencing decreasing or stagnant funding.
She says they've seen a shift in donations since 2024 for several reasons, including rising costs and the ongoing tariff war.
If we don't actually raise the alarm now, the sector could start to deteriorate in ways that will really cause harm in our communities, which is not something any of us want.
Quality requirements we have to meet.
Artang, meanwhile, says they are working to raise $100,000 by October 15th to continue operating.
We're being very open and transparent with our employees. They're still coming in with a smile on their face, and it's heartbreaking.
We've grown to be a family. We all love and care for each other.
But if the funding goal isn't met, Artang says they will have to close their doors for good. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Canadian women's rugby team has taken silver in the World Cup final. The odds of them beating England were not in their favor, especially after England dominated the tournament, winning every single one of their matches. But as Ithel Musa reports, for Canadians, there's a lot to be proud of.
Start their march onto onto the pitch.
It was a sold-out crowd at the Women's Rugby World Cup final in Twickenham, and Canadian fans were elated their team made it this far.
They're just up-and-comers. They're the underdogs, and they're going for it.
Canada lost to England in the World Cup final in 2014, and there was hope this match would be different.
They must score here, and they do.
But in the end, England's Red Roses were crowned the champions yet again. And while there was disappointment among members of Asia Hogan Rochester's old rugby club in Toronto, there was also a great deal of pride and appreciation.
We're so proud of them for getting to where they were. They were not favored to win against England, but still scored many times against them.
Even though we didn't win or how we thought the game would come out, we still made it as far as taking home silver once again, and it actually means a lot.
Today's World Cup final drew more than 80,000 people, the largest crowd ever in women's rugby history. This expert says it's part of a growing trend.
After 2 years, the WHL is filling seats, and that's a tremendous boon. MLS, women's soccer, the WNBA, all of these things are showing men and women alike that women are powerful, explosive, fast.
And while Canada's women's rugby team was defeated, their journey to the World Cup final could have a lasting impact.
No matter what happens today, rugby wins. And young people, boys and girls alike, and especially young girls, they win. And that team, they are our champions.
And for some of these young players, they serve as inspiration. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
Here in BC, a watch party was held at the Mariloma Rugby Club in support of Team Canada. And even though the team lost, those who were at the watch party say the impact on local rugby is huge.
The impact is phenomenal. The possibility to have the women's Canadian team competing on TV, live, doing so well, inspiring all the young local players as well. We have young boys and girls competitions here at Mariloma Club and in Vancouver, and for them to be able to see this and potentially be inspired by this to come play rugby as well is absolutely amazing.
I've been playing for 15 years, and so a lot of the girls that were on the screen today for me, I've either played with or played against, so that's been really special for myself, but also for all the young players. Just being able to see representation is huge. Women's rugby globally is becoming really big, so it's really nice to be able to see that, and it's great to see the little kids around. We have a minis program and a juniors program here at the Marilomas, and so it's just great to see more women getting into the sport.
Canadian Women in Sports says by age 14, Canadian girls drop out of sport at about twice the rate of boys. But one initiative is hoping to combat that stat. Today, Girls in Motion was in Maple Ridge hosting a free event aimed at encouraging young girls to stay engaged in physical activity and sports. Take a look.
All right, let's go. The whole purpose of the Carney Foundation is to help empower young girls to be who they're meant to be. And so for the last couple years, I've been working with 7 of my femtees that have been mentoring for just helping them, first of all, is power to see self, lead others, and then lead change. And this is them. Now we're gonna do part 2 of our activity, okay? Let's go, Jocelyn! They have to understand the power within them. I think sports is a huge opportunity in making them see that. And if they're having fun, they'll stay in the game. We know that by age 17, we've lost 50% of the girls. Age 13 and 14, they're dropping out at alarming rates. How are you doing? Having fun? Okay. It's important to do this because that next generation needs to know that there's greatness in them, and then you can have fun while you're achieving your goals. Woo! Let's get that moving. We're looking at the future next leaders here, and so for them to come and have the honor of doing this at the Carney field is pretty special, but most importantly, it's giving back to them and making them know that they matter, they belong, and they have greatness inside of them, and that's what today's about. Girls in Motion! They started with a vision, and they had to call the mayor's office. Imagine having to call the mayor's office to show up. They had to call our sponsors. They had to call and put things out. I'm so proud of the work we get to do, but I'm more proud of the impact of what these young women will do beyond their time with the foundation.
A bookstore in Fernie called on the town to help them move books from their old store location to their new home a block away. And this is how they did it.
We had a lot of books to move, and we also had a lot of offers from the community to help us. We probably moved a few hundred books. It's not very far, which sometimes makes a move harder, we've realized. No better way than to hand a book person to person to get it just down the block and from a shelf to a shelf. But we're estimating it was about 150 people, and really, I know, representation from really every corner of the community. We had students from a school across the street with their teachers. We had friends, we had loyal customers, we had fellow business owners from around the community just pouring into the street just minutes before we were ready to start. So we had more than enough hands to get the books here, and lots of smiles along the way. Everyone was pretty excited to be a part of it.
And all that I know is that the stars are shining.
To see the community pouring into the streets and wanting so much to be a part of this, not just the legacy, but the growth that we're experiencing is really attributable back to the people of Fernie and the people who visit us here. And so it means so much in terms of who we are today, but it also means a great deal in terms of who we're going to be as we continue to grow.
Still ahead, the search for a missing 6-year-old Alberta boy continues, with more than 200 personnel now involved, including crews from Alberta, BC, and Saskatchewan. That's next. Stay with us. To Alberta, where the search for a 6-year-old boy continues. It's been nearly a week since Darius McDougall went missing from the Crow's Nest Pass area, but search efforts have not slowed down. This weekend, more than 220 personnel from across Western Canada are searching the remote wilderness where he was last seen. CBC's Stephanie Cram has the latest.
As of today, the search efforts are proceeding, assuming that Darius is alive.
Adam Kennedy with Search and Rescue Alberta says the search continues for 6-year-old Darius McDougall. The autistic boy was last seen Sunday walking with his family near Island Lake Provincial Park, south of Crow's Nest Pass. After 6 days of scouring the rugged terrain, Gina Slaney with Alberta RCMP says the search has expanded.
Our TSG officers are now on the ground doing a shoulder-to-shoulder search. So these officers are trained to search for even the smallest piece of evidence. They're specialists in looking for these small pieces of evidence that may help us. And they're researching the area where Darius was last believed to be. So that's a huge, huge asset for us right now.
Officials are asking the public to stay away from the area, but people with information are encouraged to visit the new Information Search Center at the Crow's Nest Sports Complex.
They have maps there of the search site. If you think you know the area very well and you might know potential hiding places, safe places, this is an opportunity for you to go have a look at these maps and point out potential areas, tips that you think might be beneficial to the investigation.
RCMP say they have no plans to scale back the search, saying decisions are being made day to day. Stephanie Cram, CBC News, Edmonton.
Mark Carney met with investment firms from around the world today during his London visit. The meetings were aimed at Carney's central policy of infrastructure and economic development in the face of U.S. tariffs. The CBC's Catherine Cullen reports.
The Prime Minister is defending this trip to London as well as his broader travel schedule, saying face-to-face meetings are how a lot of important work gets done. Now, he's being criticized by Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre for much of his travel lately. Poilievre calling this particular trip part of Mark Carney's illusion tour. The Prime Minister says, yes, he has been on the road a lot in the last 10 days, pointing to his trip to Mexico City, the United Nations General Assembly, a quick return to Ottawa, where he signed a trade deal with Indonesia, and now this trip to London. But he says all of this is part of the process of making sure that agreements lead to opening up access.
It's not just you sign a nice agreement and then something happens. No, you actually have to do the work. You have to meet with the leaders to make sure the work's being done. You have to mark progress as it's being done.
Carney was meeting with investors here in London, much like he did when he was in New York City. That, he says, is not about specific commercial deals, but rather raising Canada's profile globally. He was also asked about the conversations he has had on this trip with world leaders about participation for Canada in peace process for Ukraine as well as Gaza. On Gaza in particular, he said he believes in that conflict, progress is being made and that the next few weeks could be very important. Catherine Cullen, CBC News, London.
Here we have a live shot of downtown Vancouver tonight, looking towards the North Shore. It's rather clear, not a lot of rain, but that rain is coming. I'll have your full forecast next. All right, it is time now to take a look at our weekend forecast. Let's begin with a quick peek at the current temperatures around the province tonight. Starting up in Dease Lake, -4 overnight in Dease Lake and -1 in Fort St. John. A little bit of rain in Williams Lake and Kamloops with a low of 10 overnight. And on the island, Victoria is sitting at about an 11 overnight with that precipitation. Heading into tomorrow, that rain is going to clear up for Dease Lake with a high of 12 and sun for tomorrow. Fort St. John is going to see a little bit more rain and a high of 12. In Prince George, 9 is your high for tomorrow, and Kamloops, a mix of sun and clouds and a high of 23. Similar conditions in Kelowna. Heading onto the island, 15 is your expected high for Victoria. And a reminder, with that rain comes that high stream advisory as well. And for our Metro Vancouver 5-day forecast, a mix of sun and clouds for our Sunday and a high of 20, but that looks like it's going to make way for some rain in the coming days. Fader, the humpback, has been coming back to BC's waters for the last 2 decades, but this time the whale was spotted entangled in more than 130 meters of rope and fishing gear. Here is a video of the 7-hour rescue mission by Fisheries and Oceans Canada. The whale was first seen on Sunday by whale-watching boats off the east coast of Vancouver Island. They alerted the Fisheries Department, which caught up with the whale in Nanoose Bay on Wednesday and unraveled the gear carefully. Here we can see crews using a pole to cut and unhook some of the rope from the whale. The humpback is swimming freely once again. That is your late news for this Saturday. Thanks so much for watching. For news at any hour, you can always head to our website at cbc.ca/bc. Have a great night.